What's up everybody, Nate here, and today's video is going to be a little bit different. I've been noticing lately a huge growing sentiment amongst my generation of millennials, Gen Z, and Gen X that pretty much everything in our society and country today is, well, garbage. Literally everything from the economy to music to movies to food, everything is trash in 2022. So today I want to kind of talk about how this affects us in the financial space, and of course why I think people feel this way and how I actually feel about our society today. So I've been seeing a lot of TikToks and of course videos on YouTube about people complaining about everything under the sun, from the way our financial system works in the United States to the way that music is produced and how our movies are being made. Basically, when it comes to art forms, people are saying that everything that is coming out today is unoriginal and it has no voice, it has no passion, but things 20, 30, 40, and 50 years ago somehow had more passion and were completely different. And of course, the way our economy works, there's a lot of millennials and Gen Z that are complaining about our economy, that things don't work for them today that worked for their parents and their grandparents and other generations of the past. And in a way, they're right. I hear this sentiment a lot, that the way our economy is designed today keeps people down, and the way that it works today is not the same way that it worked 50 years ago. You could basically have a single job and work that your entire life and then retire. The fact of the matter is, in 2022, and it's been like this for a very long time, our economy is shifting. The way that money works and the way that you have to approach the ideology of money is changing in the United States. And the bottom line is that you have to change with it in order to be successful financially. Now, I'm not here to tell you that things worked a lot better 50 years ago. I'm not here to tell you that things work great now. What I'm here to tell you is that things work differently, and different isn't necessarily a bad thing. Generations of today in a lot of ways have it worse off than our parents and our grandparents, but in a lot of ways we are better off. Our parents and grandparents didn't have things like the internet. Education was not as decentralized. I literally go to my grandfather all the time and even my parents and just talk to them about how they used to learn things. I've literally asked them, well, if you didn't know something, how did you learn it? Well, you had to talk to somebody that did know it, or you had to go to a library and sift through thousands of books and find the one piece of information that you wanted to learn. Today, it is way easier. If I don't know something, I can literally just Google it. I can go talk to somebody as well, and I can take an entire course online for that particular thing. The way that we're able to learn nowadays is way easier than it was 30, 40, and 50 years ago. That's just a fact. Of course, there are disadvantages to that. If you learn something on YouTube, you have to be careful who you listen to because some people just don't know what they're talking about. There are a lot of bad educators out there, but there are also a lot of really good ones that you can learn everything under the sun, from how to fix your car to how to invest in your 401k. And that's the other really interesting thing about our economy today. Gen Z and millennials are starting to invest more than previous generations because they understand the value of that. And for Gen X and the boomers, that is really confusing them because they would rather work a decent job and invest the rest than to try to continue to climb that corporate ladder and continue to really move into their career. Gen Z and millennials, for a lot of them, don't really care about a career. That's why we're having a lot of these great resignation problems. They know that there are so many different ways to make money, and one of the ways you can do that is through investing. Investing alone is so much easier than it was 20, 30, and 40 years ago. You literally just have to download an app on your phone and you can start buying fractional shares of all companies on the New York Stock Exchange. You can literally become an owner in these companies. As they make profits, you make profits within your own life. That builds generational wealth over time. My parents knew nothing about investing. They were not natural investors, which means none of that information was passed down to me. But because of things like the internet, it's so much easier to learn all of these different things. My parents, if they wanted to go out and invest, they had to literally go to a physical broker and have them do all of the investing for them. It was a lot more difficult and it was a lot more expensive. Now you can invest on your own basically for free. And I think people nowadays, whether it's Gen X or Gen Z or millennials, have sort of this romanticized version of what life used to be a long time ago. They have this nostalgia for their own childhood and the time just before it. When you're a kid and when you're growing up, for a lot of Americans in the United States, things were pretty simple and life was a simple time. You didn't have a lot of these problems that you start to gather further on in life. Myself and a lot of millennials share in this sentiment that, yeah, we weren't taught a lot of things. I don't know a lot of things that I probably should have growing up that would have helped me in life, but the fact of the matter is my parents didn't really know them either, so who was going to teach me them? At some point, I have to take the responsibility for myself and start learning the things that I wish I was taught, and I can only hope that I pass that information on other generations after me. But I can't feel bad for what I didn't know, especially if my parents didn't know it either. Sure, 50 to 100 years ago, you might have been able to work one single job your entire life, but like I said, our economy has changed, and the way that money works nowadays simply cannot support that lifestyle anymore. And remember, these were single jobs, and a lot of those jobs were really difficult. I mean, we're talking about factory workers that work 40, 50, and 60 hours a week. Sure, there are millions of Americans that still work those factory jobs that work 100+ hours a week. But the difference is a lot of Americans don't necessarily have to work those jobs. There are a lot of other jobs that didn't exist 30, 40, and 50 years ago. Like, I'm on YouTube right now making money. Case in point, that did not even exist 15 years ago. So there are a lot of other ways to make money, and you definitely still can find jobs that you can work at your entire life and retire from. But retirement is very different. The ideology we have around retirement is very different, and I think that is a mental health issue because a lot of people were finding out that they worked a job for 30, 40, and 50 years only to retire and realize that they're depressed. They have no hobbies. That job was their entire life. I personally think that entire system is broken. We should be able to use our money today. We shouldn't work 30, 40, and 50 years just to have 15 years of retirement that we can actually enjoy. We should be enjoying our life right now. We shouldn't be worrying about 30, 40, and 50 years from now if we're going to enjoy it. That's why you need to make your money work for you today. And that's why you have to realize that money today is very different, but you can make it work for you. Now, this ideology that everything is trash in 2022, that our entire society and culture just doesn't work and everything is pretty much garbage, that's going to have some pretty profound consequences on everything in our economy because millennials are one of the biggest generations right now. Same with Gen Z and Gen X. They are about to get a whole bunch of money because boomers, one of the wealthiest generations, is trickling trillions of dollars down. They're passing away, they're retiring, and a lot of that money is starting to cycle back through our economy and it's going back down. Obviously, not every single person in our economy is going to have rich grandparents that are going to trickle down thousands, if not millions of dollars to them, but eventually that money is going to boom our economy in general. Or will it? Because with people having this negative sentiment that movies are bad and music is bad and food is bad, well, people are going to do a lot less buying in the future. That could mean that our entire economy goes from spenders to savers. If the sentiment that people don't like any musicians nowadays, so they're not buying albums or they're not going out and spending money on merch and concerts, well, that industry is going to get hit hard and it's going to be a lot harder for people to make a living in that. That money is going to go away, but same with restaurants and restaurant chains. If people don't like the food, then those restaurant chains are going to go out of business. And I mean, the solution seems pretty simple. All they need to do is just provide what people want to see, right? Well, and that's where I kind of differ between what the majority of people think about society, culture, and money today and what I think. I think that right now there is so much good movies and TV shows and so many ways to build your wealth in 2022. I kind of understand things from the money side. I know what a lot of these businesses and musicians and a lot of these companies try to do when they put out art. I know that at the end of the day, they're trying to make money and this is a business, but also they try to be as original as possible within that. It's not necessarily the people that are creating it, it's the people that are selling it, and those are the people that we really need to address. I think there is a lot of creativity out there in the world, and it's important to mention that every single generation has gone through this. They have looked at the art of today and they've said, this is garbage. It was so much better 10, 15, and 20 years ago, but 10, 15, 20 years ago, they were saying that what was mainstream then was garbage and that we should go back to the 60s and 50s and 40s. I think at the end of the day, people don't like change. They don't like it when our economy changes. They don't like like when their lifestyle changes. They don't like when culture shifts around them. They don't want to expand what they already know. For the most part, people want to stay comfortable. They want to do what they know, and that's all they want to do. But I think that's a very dangerous way to live your life in general, because if you never change, if you never grow, then you're never going to be able to gain any new opportunities. Your life is always going to stay exactly the same, and it might even get worse because you are trying to stay the same while everything else around you is shifting. Now, obviously, there are some things in our society that are garbage. I mentioned a few before, and even when it comes to art things, well, there is a lot of trash out there, but what you need to do is try to find things that you like. It's not going to be apparent right in front of your eyes that there is good out there, but you have to go out and find good. There is a lot of good in the world, and at the end of the day, if you don't see that good, if you don't see things that you like, then you need to go out and try to create that. That is one thing that is great about 2022 is you can go out and try to create something in this culture that other people find really awesome. And that gives your life purpose, and it can give others life purpose as well. And that can be really great for our economy because that boosts things like if you post on YouTube or if you try to sell or go on tour. It's important to mention too that in the United States, we're going through a generational shift in general. Obviously, we went through the pandemic and that changed our culture a lot. And now we're kind of post-pandemic, but we also are running into a recession, and the way that we think about money, art, and culture is starting to change too. The generations of Gen Z and millennials are some of the most educated people in American history, and that means that they're going to be thinking a lot about culture and society and our economy, and they're going to be thinking about bettering it and trying to change it for what we need today. In a way, I'm kind of glad that people think this way. Like, I was watching a Star Wars documentary yesterday. When they were creating the first Star Wars movies, George Lucas and his entire crew realized that what they needed to film the movie didn't really exist yet. So what did they do? They actually went out and created brand new technologies to film the first Star Wars movies. They didn't like the way that traditional movies were shot, so they came out with brand new technology. I think in 2022 and beyond, we are starting to see those generational shifts where people are really unhappy with culture and technology and our economy, and that's when real change starts to happen in our society. That is a really awesome thing, and it's gonna be really cool to live through. But right now, we're in that kind of phase where everybody is just really angry, and I totally get it. Things are not going the way that many of us were taught that they were going to go in the future. Being upset about it and being negative about it isn't actually going to change anything. You have to use what resources you have, and you have to use the resources out there in order to try to better yourself and to eventually better this planet. Little by little, you can get it done, and you can start making those small changes that are going to make you a whole lot happier, and they're going to make people around you a lot happier too. That's why I always say at the end of these videos that I want you to be kind. Things are really negative. The news is really negative all the time, but what we need to understand is all of these issues, whether it's music, our food, or our economy, these at the end of the day are human issues. They are literally people that are having these problems. Like, the economy doesn't exist. We made the economy. Our culture is all of our responsibilities, and we all play an active role in it. But one of the easiest things we can do is to try to be kind and understanding and try to figure out why things are the way that they are. And in doing so, we can try to make active changes for them. We have a very immediate culture, whether it comes to spending or it comes to reacting to something. We want to have either a really happy reaction or we want to be really angry at something. But what I'm asking you to do is kind of take a step back and to be kind first. Look at the entire situation and try to figure out why someone is acting the way that they are, or why musicians put out the music that they do, or why movies are made the way that they are. You can't change what's already in the past, but I can guarantee you that slowly but surely you can change what happens in the future. And that will basically ensure that everything is not trash in the future. Although I gotta tell ya, even though you're probably going to do a lot and you're motivated to make a lot of these changes, no matter what you do, somebody is always going to be upset with what you do. You can't make everybody happy in the United States or the world or even your own community, but you have to try to focus on the people that you can make happy and try to make as many people as happy as possible with what you create or what you put out there. That that at the end of the day is what business is all about and what our economy is all about. Growing people and trying to make as many people as successful as possible in their personal or professional life. And maybe if you do all of that, you'll have less people getting mad at you in the future. And that's really the best that you can possibly do. But now I want to hear from you on this issue. What do you think about basically everything being garbage in 2022? Do you think this is true, or do you think things are actually a lot better than they may seem? Whatever your thoughts are, leave a comment below before you go. But that is it for today's business and financial news breakdown. Thank you so much for watching. If you want to stay up to date with all of the top business and financial news from around the country, our team puts together a free daily newsletter, and you can subscribe to it by clicking the link in this corner right here. And if you want to stay up to date with me and everything else happening in the business and financial world, I'm putting out updates 7 days a week over here on this channel, and I've actually got another one ready for you right here, so be sure to check that out before you go. That is it for me, everybody. Be kind out there, and I'll see you all in the next one.